The first agenda item is to improve our communication and transparency throughout the election process, especially at the Meet the Candidate night. There was, from a lot of the candidates on the stage, one of the kind of repeating themes was increased transparency. And some things that, as a sitting board member, I thought were pretty transparent, it became apparent that to the community, it is not perceived as that. So I think, this committee is a perfect vehicle to help improve some of that stuff. The things that were brought up were like the budget and, some of the policies, the hiring and firings, like basically everything that goes on in our committee meetings. And so one of the thoughts that I had to improve the perceived transparency is to try to get the press more involved in our committee meeting process. So whether that was, and it's open to, any ideas you guys have, but the summary reports that we get from each committee, digesting those down maybe to bullet points and furnishing those to the press so, they can, already in a publishable form. So it could be, a weekly or monthly thing that, would be out in the community. Because all the information's there, it's just not intuitive, I guess, where to find it. Last, meeting for the policy and personnel, I missed due to illness, and I did watch the meeting on YouTube, but it took me a while to find it. It wasn't as readily accessible as I thought it really would be. I haven't watched a lot of those videos because I'm there, so I haven't had the opportunity to do that. So I was, I made a little list of some bullet points, linking those videos at YouTube, to our website, to the social media site, to making it just, that much more visible so the general public could actually see what we're discussing. Because at these committee meetings is when a lot of the decisions get made. The board meeting is, kind of the rubber stamp to say, okay, yeah, we talked about this and we approve it. And we don't allot ourselves a lot of time for discussion for most issues. So I think increasing the visibility of these committee meetings would help. And I think, that's one way we could do it. Anybody else have any thoughts on?
Yeah, I was thinking too, Jim, like when, like the press, radio, newspaper, there's only so many people that read that these days. So
right.
I know like when Walter and I were talking before about like, some of the things that were going on, you'd reference, hey, it was announced on the radio. And I'm like, I don't listen on the radio.
Right.
I'm like on the go, or it was in the paper. I don't read the paper. If it's online, I think that's probably like the next avenue if we're really looking to get out to folks. Facebook and some of the other different mechanisms. I don't think so much Instagram, but some of the different social media outlets are a really good place.
As far as our school, we have Facebook presence. Do we have Instagram? Like, I don't know that we do.
I think we do, but when we do the website has us connect. Like if I publish a story on our webpage, it'll publish that either to Twitter or Facebook.
Okay.
We're both. Yeah. So Twitter and Facebook are the main two.
I don't know that we have an Instagram account. If we do, we don't use it.
It usually is more for photos anyway, so I don't know that that's the greatest vehicle for, bullet point, here's what the, policy and personnel committee talked about last week. But, that fits Facebook, that,
I know the younger folks, individual use Instagram a lot more versus Facebook, where I'm more of a Facebooker, I would say. Right.
We're all
our generation is Facebook.
That's why they don't get on it.
Right.
Mom and dad are on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I kind of agree that not a lot of people consume the media, but I don't want to exclude them either because there are people that's where they get there, which kind of led me down that path because, well, if these people are unaware, where are they, getting their information from? It's, I don't remember who it was, but one of the candidates at Meet the Candidate Night had mentioned about, we're going to go through an audit. And we're like, we do that every year. Like it's all available. We talk about it. It's, at the meetings and like, it is all there. So where there's a big gap because people don't know that that's there. So
it wouldn't be a tremendous amount of work to have a standing meeting. Like one of us types up the minutes for these, which is what you usually see me typing while we're talking. Because if I don't do it now, I forget. But it wouldn't be too much work to schedule a standing meeting for the day after. with me and our PR secretary,
Yeah,
or one of us and our PR secretary, so we can go over the minutes and then take those minutes and turn them into a blurb for Twitter and Facebook
yeah.
and the website that, I mean, that wouldn't be.
With links to like the actual
The
video when
video.
that gets
Now, the
available.
video, I'm gonna have to ask Randy, if you're listening, Randy, how long does it take to get those videos uploaded? It's not the
2
next
days.
day, it's like
Yeah.
2 or 3 days.
I usually have them up the next day. The only reason it would take longer than that is because I forgot. So
So, yeah, maybe that, I mean, if we had that standing meeting the day after, we just boom, boom, boom,
Mhm.
get it taken care of, get it blasted out. That shouldn't be too.
So a summary and videos. right?
Yeah, like
Well-
a half-hour meeting, boom, boom, boom.
My recommendation would be that when you write that, you write it in the form of a formal press release,
Somebody had their-
okay? And then that, if
I heard
you
it named.
give that to the
Somebody was coming in
various
and out.
formal medias, they're more than likely to publish it word for word if it's done properly. The other thing is, if it goes on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, it does look a little more official. It looks a little more professional if it's done as a formal press release rather than just some ramblings of a summary.
I
Okay.
like Jim's idea though, of bullet points too, because
Well,
I'm not gonna read the
Yeah.
entire.
I think
I'm not
for
gonna
social
click on a link
media,
and read 15
you know,
minutes.
having the
Incredible.
bullet points and say, here's what we discussed in this meeting, and then have a link to actually go watch, the footage if you're interested in that topic. I think that's
See,
kind of how my mind operates anyway. If I came across that.
I think that's a really good point though, because
Yeah.
if you have the Facebook and you put like something like this, you lose people in the first
Right,
paragraph.
I'm gonna read the first paragraph.
Right.
And then.
So you want to keep it really brief and short, and if they want to
Okay.
see more, they can kind of go in.
Yeah, I think there's probably different levels of communication, obviously, too, for these meeting summaries. I think it's best served that, have the information there and say, this is what we talked about in this meeting. If they're interested, they can go see. If there's ever a topic, let's say like, the reconfiguration, if we were talking about that after this meeting, putting out some thought process, a little more, stylistic for like print publication for big topics that require a little bit of insight. I think that in certain circumstances, we could put out something like that. But I think, if we set up some kind of mechanism, so all the meetings, they're already, getting summarized anyway, if, just pop that on either our page or, Facebook or whatever.
So, and I'm okay with that, and I'm okay with the bullet points if that's really where this wants to go with it. The question, though, that I would ask is, should this committee maybe not kind of better define those exceptions where it is more formalized? Because my fear is
We
that
could
once you
steer
kind
that.
of get into the
Yeah. Right. I think we can.
routine, you may or may not.
Right. As we're not meeting yearly, I think, we could steer that. So if we know that something big's coming up, hey, we're gonna, have the meeting for the horseman.
780 hearing.
Yes. Then we can make a decision at this committee and say, hey, this rises to that level. And then, we can charge somebody with coming up with a summary and, do that kind of,
I just don't want it
to have that
kind of-
mechanism. Yeah.
some mechanism that would trigger the discussion.
Yeah.
My biggest concern is that if we get into the routine and then it doesn't.
And maybe
get to
like
that level.
how Terry had it on the building and grounds where every agenda had a Eisenhower update. Maybe every agenda for ours has, hey, is there anything that we need to, specifically put out there? And then we could talk about, what's going on at the time frame. If there's nothing, there's nothing. If there is
Pass
something,
over it.
yeah.
Good deal.
So just so I understand what we're saying, so we're gonna have the follow-up meeting after this with a list of bullet point highlights, along with a link to the video for those who want to learn more, and then an advertisement of, hey, this conversation will continue at the upcoming meeting, so that people are, we're blasting that out. And then at every committee meeting, we want a standing agenda item that kind of highlights, hey, is there anything we must communicate? We should communicate
Right.
to the public.
In a different format, in a little more
Yeah.
formal.
Yeah, and if it's for the press, I agree with Walter. It's better that we write it and have
Yeah.
the wording the way we
Well,
want
I
it.
think,
than
because I
them
thought
look at the
about
bullet
that.
points and make it their own.
Yeah, I thought about that a
Agree
couple
with
times.
the
If we
press.
bombard the press like every week, you know,
No.
they're not going to publish everything.
No.
So if we reserve that for, you know, some big issue where we need to have like a thought process behind it. Hey, listen, we came to this conclusion. Here were the arguments on either side. We could actually have more of a summary. Excuse me.
Or things that we want the public's input. Say, we're meeting on this day,
That's-
we would like to
That's
gather
my
more
next bullet
input.
point that I have is,
Yeah.
you know, right now we're talking about the out information, you know, the in information, when we have anything that we need stakeholder involvement in, which I think always should be encouraged, but you know, these big decisions where maybe the board's split, maybe there's, you know, we don't want to act rashly when we don't know 100% which way to go because there is difference of opinions. I think as taxpayers, people are entitled to, you know, have a vehicle for their input, and you know, people don't come to these meetings. I didn't come to these meetings before I was a board member. I was aware they were here, but I didn't get involved until the COVID stuff because I had something to say about it. And I think most people are like that. If they have, you know, an issue passionate to them, then they show up, but sometimes they don't even know it's being decided until after it's been decided. So I wanted to, you know, have some sort of, and even if that's on, you know, a Facebook poll, as silly as that would be, you know, some kind of vehicle for those kind of things. I know we send surveys and we've done that before, but it doesn't always have to be that complicated. If it was just, you know, a quick Facebook poll or something like that on an issue that, hey, we just want to take the temperature of, you know, the people that are out in the community. We should, you know, have that as an option at our disposal. You know, it again, open to any other opinions you guys have.
On that, Jim, depends on what issue it is.
Right.
If it's an issue like about painting the parking spots that Chris brought up, you know, no problem. If it's an extremely controversial issue, the issue becomes how valid is the statistics that they bring forward.
Sure.
Okay. At which point, and this is going to be what I'm going to suggest when we get into the actual discussions of Horace Mann, that we look at, what was the name of that company we used, that Deb?
Community connectors, community.
Strategic solutions, yeah.
Strategic Solutions. And they actually did a statistically valid sampling of the community at various different levels,
Right.
various different groups that provided some information. My biggest fear is that, particularly on a controversial issue, you'll have one group that comes in and says, you know, over my dead body, are you going to close that building? And I've got the thumb on the pulse of the community, and the community's behind me. And you're going to get another group that's going to come in and say, over my dead body, are you going to keep that open? I've got my thumb on the pulse, and everybody I talk to says, close the thing. Okay. And then it becomes a real political nightmare.
Well, these issues are always, you know, politically sticky, but I think the more information we have, the better. Ideally, it would be great to have the opinion of every stakeholder in the area. That's not realistic. So I do agree that on the bigger issues, having the more formal survey,
Yes.
you know, that makes sense. I think there still would be validity to hear, you know,
I agree.
because the Facebook community is not going to be the entire community. You know, it's going to be our age people. There's certainly a lot of people that don't use social media. They're going to be the newspaper crowd. You know, I don't know that there's a whole lot of overlap between those. You know, people that get all their information from the newspaper, probably not trolling Facebook all the time.
That might be Dr. She did raise her hand.
Dr. McCombie, is your mic open?
Yes, hold on.
Are you burning something? Fire alarm going off?
Wow, the timer's going off and I'm saying, honey,
Okay, I'm listening in, and and I agree that these committee meetings are so important. They're so much more informative. We need to get that word out. I agree with everything you said. But one of the things that was frustrating to me when I would be watching is all I see is this huge agenda, and I can't even tell who's speaking. Because, and if you're, I know now who's speaking because I know who you are. But if you're a community member and you're watching this, all I see is Chris and two people in the audience, and I can't even tell who they are. It's just hello. I can't see. It's just your tiny, tiny people. So can the camera be maybe reconfigured so that the big part is actually our meeting, that people can see who's speaking?
I mean, yeah, anything's possible. We'd have to troubleshoot that. There's a device called
Well,
OWL.
when we flipped the room this way, like when I first started, it was COVID time, so the board was flipped, and I think we had better pictures at that point because we'd also be able to project stuff onto the screen and follow along. Like, just now, we're not aware if somebody raises their hand, and as Jared says, hey, somebody raised their hand. I don't know what the rest of the room's feeling is, but I kind of liked it the other way, where the community was here. We could use the screen. The camera was hitting most of the board because you guys there. If you stand up, they're gonna see the back of your head. They can't really.
I'm not even sure which way it's oriented, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, I think it's behind us, right there.
It's right there.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you can see.
It's something to think
better
about.
that way too, Jim. And I liked when we were able to see who was in the meeting on the screen. If anybody joined in Teams, we could tell who was on there, and I like that.
Well, yeah, from our standpoint,
Right.
and especially these committee meetings, the board meetings, it's kind of less important because we're less interactive. It's more of the informative side of things. But I think there was merit to the way it was before.
Yeah, and there's also there's that device called an OWL, and what it is, it's like a camera that has a rotating head on it with multiple cameras, and you sit it in the middle where that microphone is basically, and it follows the sound. So if I start talking, it looks at me. If Dr. Reed would start talking, it would bring her up in the screen. That way, to Dr. McCombie's point, you would be able to see
That's very interesting.
who is talking. Now,
Would it eliminate side conversations?
It doesn't. It doesn't. So when I was a school board member at Conemaugh Township, we had the OWL, and the moment someone would talk, the camera would pin on them. But if you had two or three people talking all at the same time, the camera was like back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah.
So it was. So I think it's a good option.
Mhm.
You just almost have to make sure that there's not a lot of people
Well,
talking at
here's-
the same time.
The bougie option, I guess, is we have, the kind of the room camera. Do we have the ability to do 2 feeds if we had something like that? So the person viewing could pick, do I want to see the face of the person talking, or am I just okay seeing the whole room? I don't want to get motion sick with this thing spinning around 360.
I would have to defer to Randy on that one as well. Randy, is that possible?
Well, I mean, anything's possible, but you're talking about an entirely different production level when you start dealing with that.
Okay.
And that's not, I mean, you're talking about television production, like in a news studio, that if you want a camera on the person that's talking, and then a camera on the
So
board
you
itself, that would be very difficult for what we have here. That would not be. We would have to completely redesign that. And the OWL is good, but I can't isolate the like Justin was saying. It relies on its microphone. And our microphone system in there now are a bunch of little condenser mics that you can kind of see sitting around. We had a more of a centralized microphone system, but it wasn't picking up the board members. You remember? So we kind of have to have the system right now. So I'm not sure how well the OWL would work with some of the voices that we have on the board to try to pick them up.
Just for curiosity's sake, what is the cost of this?
That's what I'm looking right now.
Okay.
Would it essentially just be
I have one down. I have one down here, but I'm just saying we wouldn't have to buy one. I have one. But what I'm saying is though that
$49.
we tried to use a single point microphone system, and it did not pick up the board members correctly. Do you remember that?
Well, I do.
We had a lot of
Yeah, a quick aside, like the broadcast could be from our portable mics here, and the owl could just be for the video feed in my mind. I don't know.
Well, let us vet it out.
Well, the Google Meet isn't the Google Meet that doesn't operate like that. It has to, it technically that doesn't do that. I mean, I can have the camera from one source, but the other one, but I can't isolate the owl into.
Yeah, what I'm thinking of, I think you're missing what I'm thinking of. So we'd still run the Meet the same way we are, but as a, like somebody, like we can see that you're logged in sometimes, or, you know, Tom, when he logs in from the room, have the owl as a separate feed that if somebody wants to click on that, they would still hear the meeting from the original Google Meet, but be able to look at the pictures from the owl. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, but what separate feed would you want the owl from?
It would just be like another login, right? Like,
So you want to run 2 Google Meets?
no.
No, I think one Google Meet and one participant would be the owl.
Aaron
If
is,
I could make a suggestion, I mean, when I'm on the Drug and Alcohol Commission Board, I'm trying to Indiana Clarion Drug and Alcohol Commission. And we have Clarion who zooms in, basically, we use Zoom. They zoom in, they're on the television screen like here when I conduct the meeting. And then there's an owl in the middle, and there's like, the owl will show 3 different people, like the last 3 people that spoke is how it shows there on the thing. So there's 3 of us sitting there, so it might be me, and it might be the person who's answered my question. And then all the people from Clarion are there too, so I know that our budget there is not very high, so I know that there's a way to do it, and maybe if you wanna, it's just a suggestion, connect with their tech guy, see how he's doing it. But we have Clarion in a Zoom meeting that we deal with, and then we have the owl going at the same time.
So the owl is another participant in the meeting, and they can choose to focus on that one if they want to.
Yes, I think that's
Yeah,
it.
we could try that.
It works really well for us.
Why don't you give us some time? We'll try a
Yeah.
couple different things. We'll see how it works. We'll pick whatever.
And we've already looked at, because the way we had it before, we could have the projector on. The projector right now will be shining in Mr. Schroth's face the entire time.
Right.
I'm sure he would not appreciate that.
Simonizer.
I get a little stage fright with this.
Yeah, but we are looking at that whiteboard that's behind everybody there is we're gonna, like, as putting a big TV there. So we will have the meeting on there the whole time. So people can see what's going on in the meeting and all that kind of stuff. So, so we can look at putting a new camera. You can see on the back wall there above the pictures, there is a camera back there, but I think it got damaged whenever we kind of did the HVAC this summer because I can't get it to do anything right now. I wanted to have that one on so we can have a better view of the board. So we could also look at replacing that one along with the owl, to see if that helps.
Okay, I think that's good. Yeah, that would definitely improve our, if we're going to put out, these links for the public to watch, to have something quality that they can actually see would improve. And having the TV back there is, I think, a definite plus, because I do miss, being able to see who's on and who's raising a hand and be able to recognize them in a timely fashion. I think that's important. So we have 6 minutes. Let's see.
Yeah, this one shouldn't be too.
Yeah, the retirement dinner.
Yeah, the retirement dinner. It was brought by the public. The desire to bring back the retirement dinner that went away after COVID and never came back. Now, I did some digging on this. This was an expense to the district. The teachers and the association and the district shared the responsibility of it. But it did actually end up costing the district money, which is shouldn't be a deterrent too much. My thought was, we had talked about making this Indiana Hall of Fame as part of the foundation efforts. If we can marry those two together, where we have the Hall of Fame induction for people who have been retired for 5 or more years, plus celebrating the retirees this year, who would be then eligible for the Hall of Fame 5 years from now, we might be able to not only celebrate those retirees, but actually turn it into a fundraiser for the foundation. And if I can figure out how to do that, then it's a no-brainer. If I can't, and we just want to spend the money to celebrate the retirees, I mean, obviously I support that. I just,
I think both should happen. I think short term, because the foundation's still in
It's
the
a-
ethers right
yeah.
now. I am definitely for recognizing people who have dedicated their professional career to the district and retire. I did not know there's been no retirement dinner since I've been on the board, so it's not been a thing. I think I'm definitely for whatever we need to do to make that happen now, and then when the foundation gets going, which was going to be my non-agenda item thing.
She's coming tonight to present about
Perfect.
the foundation, and then we're ready to
Yeah,
report on next steps. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, we want to recognize our retirees. So that, in this first one, we would have to recognize, in my opinion, all the retirees from the last 4 or 5 years here that have not
Yeah, I agree.
had that.
I agree.
Question is, what kind of budget are we looking at if we don't turn it into something? And then what I would request is you give us the authority or the direction to go sit with the association and talk about plans and see if they can meet us in the middle on this, because they're people too,
I'm definitely for that, and at least get those wheels in motion, because we're talking a lot of people, and
A lot of people.
They unfortunately kind of fell through the cracks because of COVID and now all the changes. This could have came up a lot earlier, but I didn't know it was a thing. Like I said, I never had a experience being at a retirement dinner through the school board, so I didn't know that was even missing.
And I will
because it was
say
never
this,
here.
in every other place where I worked, that was handled by the association.
Mhm.
Indiana is the first district I've ever worked in where the district themselves hold the retirement dinner. So, and now I know they do it in partnership with the association, but
Yeah.
it's unique here in my experience,
Well, it's just not the teachers that are honored that retire. It's also administrators,
Custodians.
some support staff and all that. All facets of the district are honored when they retire.
And I think too, what was happening as well was, especially now that Rustic Lodge is not a venue we can use, it was kind of starting to price out some of the people who wouldn't normally attend.
Mm.
I mean, the price per person was starting to get upwards of $30, $40, $50 just to cover the cost, which for certain people was a little
Yeah.
too expensive. So it was getting to the point where we were, you either have it and certain groups are excluded or you don't have it at all.
But let me talk to the association. Let me see if we can come up with a venue that would make sense, a plan of attack, a commitment on their behalf to share the cost. And then, we'll come back with some potential plans for you. How's that?
Well, I like what you said, Rob, because I think some of the stuff that we can do is when you look at previous teachers, that's part of the fundraising we can do, right? And if we have part of our, the buckets where the money goes, obviously that could be one category, is the teacher retirement, fund or whatever it is, right? So we could denote funds for that, as we raise them,
Love that.
and there's other options too, like Cherry Run out in Homer City, like we had our United Way Rose Society event there. I mean, they leased it to us really inexpensive. We had a local business cater it from within, so we might be able to do it definitely a lot cheaper than $40-$50.
Yeah, we just want to
But very
remember that
nice.
it's not only teachers who were.
Before too, in Folger Dining Hall.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't we even have it here, stuff, in the district? Seems to me, I remember one of the cafeterias or something one year. I mean, that was many years ago,
But when I retired, it was at Folger, actually. That would have been in 2013, so.
It's always after the semester is done, so there's no IEP events going on.
What timetable did they typically have? Was it before the end of school year or was it after?
It was still during school.
it's usually during
Was it
May,
like in May?
I think, yeah,
Mid to late May.
May,
So after IUP commencement, right? When the
That's my
students are-
memory.
which is usually
Okay.
around the 11th.
Yeah, right.
Okay. I would respectfully ask permission to maybe look at June. Because we have the IU 28 gala at our, we have to plan that event too.
That's
For
usually
this year,
April.
That's for this year.
That's usually in April, isn't it?
It is in April, yeah, but I'm just saying we had the, we'll be boom, 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 if we can pull it off, we can pull anything off, but if we
I
have
think
to have it done.
it'll probably end
before,
up being venue specific, depending on, how many people we're talking about, what's kind of space do we need? But I think that would, come clear once, we start talking to the association and see, what kind of interest on their part, do they Are the people who retired 2 years ago still gonna show up or no? I don't know if they'd be able to answer that or not.
How much does it usually cost the district or the school?
It was thousands of dollars to run it the last time they ran it. I want to say it was $7,000 plus expense on the district side, and that was in 2019. So it's going to be more than that this year. You know, you're talking about, you know, probably tens of thousands to run this for everybody that's retired in the last 5 years. You know, but I mean, all we can do is vet it out, bring it back, and say, hey, this is what we can do. This is what we think we can charge, and the board can vote, and we can decide from there.
I'm all for it.
I think one of the problems just is also trying to keep up on contact information for everybody who has retired, who has been retired, and where they've moved. Those type of things is kind of what we were seeing too.
All right. So we're 2 minutes over. Any non-agenda items that burning in someone's heart? I had written down the foundation, but if we're going to have a presentation, we'll move that to some other time. Any other issues for the good of the order? Then I move that we're adjourned.
Excellent job. Very good.